Hey guys, welcome back. So in this one I'm just going to be making a few small circuit boards that are handy little tools for repairing PCs. I may have some of these now and I may have some of these in the future, but having it in your toolbox means you're always ready. Okay, so grab yourself a drink, a few little snacks and a comfy chair. And let's have a look. Hey guys, welcome back. And as I was saying, I'm going to be doing some boards for repairs and to help me with testing and burn-ins and things like that. So the first one I'm going to have a look at is one for a machine I was doing just recently, which was the Spectrum, and this will work I think up to the 2 Plus, I think it is, and these are cartridge boards that you can put the diagnostics ROMs on them, plug them in, and so long as it's partially working, select what you need and run the tests. So it's going to cut that open. The knife's not very sharp, so bear with me. And they vacuum pack these really well. This is from PCBWay. I don't get sponsored by them or anything, but I use them quite often. The other one I use is JLPCB. Sometimes I find they are cheaper than PCBWay, but not all the time. So I generally jump back and forwards between them. And so there we have. And as you may know or you may not know, if you go to PCBWay, you can get under 100mm by 100mm boards for $5 for 5. But if you actually look, you can get 10 for your $5. And then there's just your freight on top of it. If you want it to be populated, then there's extra costs with that as well. But they do have deals, so have a look. Anyway, here we have it, and this is the board. I will show you on here what it is. So this is the first one I'm going to do. I do have extras of these boards, so I will be sticking them up on my community page on YouTube here. Keep a lookout for that. I see they didn't actually cut the notch out. Never mind. I suppose we can do that. That's not a problem. But anyway, I will put these up on my YouTube page for any of the extras I have, if anybody is interested. And as I say, you just pay me the $1 or $2 for the board and then postage for them if you want them, and however many you want. Alrighty, so that's these ones. So I will get the parts out for these, and I will put a list up on the screen over there so you know what parts of these are. And these boards, you can find them on PCBWay or on the internet. Alrighty, so I will get on with this and I will get these pieces together. Back shortly. So guys, I've got all the bits. I got the Spectrum on here as well. I just wanted to check the connection for this, and what they've done is they've used some edge connectors. Let's take those off. They've used some edge connectors that they've soldered onto these connectors here, and that's this type here, which have the pins on the back. They're usually used for like cartridge slots and that sort of thing. The ones I've got are 50 way, and these are actually a 56 way, so they're actually longer than what my sockets are. I'll have a look and see if I've got any others. I'm not 100% sure I do, so if not, I'm going to have to order some in. I don't want to butcher these up to make one of these. I'd rather wait a couple of weeks and get the proper ones in. And the thing is, just like with these, you order about 5 or 10 or however many. So that's where I'm up to, but I've laid the board out, put the sockets on. One is for the 27C512, which is the ROM. The other one is a 74LS32. Then we have a 100NF decoupling capacitor, a 10K resistor, over here next to the reset button. The first two resistors are 10k. The next one is for the LED. That's to limit the current, and that is a 150 ohms. And then I've just got a red bright LED here, a little wee 3mm one. I didn't have the block switch that he had that has the two jumpers on it. So what I did is I have some of these long header connectors. These are like 20mm on this side and about 5 on that side. But they'll slide through. So I got a jumper out of my jumper pack. I mean, these are the packs I tell you about, guys, to buy off Trade Me, places like that. That's push buttons, and there's assortment, I think, of about 20 of each type in there. And then there's the same with these. You get the short and the long jumpers in these packs as well. And I just got one of these. And all I did is I slid it onto the end here, onto those end two pins, which don't go through far enough. Now I cut this off, of course, with a pair of pliers, so I only had two. And then I put it on the bench and just pushed down either side of it until it just started to lift up the jumper. That means it's gone through far enough. And when it has, then what I did is I bent them out at right angles at the bottom, so they come out either side. I placed them over it and worked out where it is, and that's where these flat jaw pliers are good. As you can see, they don't have any sort of ridging inside them. You can buy them cheap from $2 shops or Chinese shops, and they usually come in little sets of 3. And I just bent them out, and then I worked out where on the board they need to be, and I just bent them right angles to go down, and as you can see, they sit in the sockets. And that's what I'm going to use, because I don't have any. And it saves me buying them in. I will look to see if there's sets of them for like this, and you can get them in 1s, 2s, 3s, or 1s, 2s, 4s, 6s, 8s, or whatever. And I'll see if there's little packs, and I might grab some. For the odd occasion, I might need them. Alright, so that's how I did those. So I do need 2 jumpers for that, because that switch arrangement at the top here is for selecting what 16k block you want out of your ROM, and the documentation has the options for block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, and that's what the little LED does from memory, is that if you've got it set for block 1, when you reset it, it'll flash once, it'll flash up once for block 1, and then it'll flash twice for block 2, flash 3 times for block 3, and 4 times for block 4. So nice little thing, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what it does. Don't quote me on that. But it may be just a power LED. Who knows? Alright guys, so I'm not worried about putting these in yet, because I've got to solder all this board together. And as I said, I can't do anything until I've done something with the edge connector. I will have a hunt through and see if I've got any of those sockets. I am sorting out all my bits as well. All my ICs and everything, and I have some storage options for that as well, which I'm going to be going over Christmas recording and stuff like that in the new year for you. Alright, so this is where I'm up to, so I will get this stuff out of my way, and I will solder that up and dig the ICs out for this. You can use a straight ROM if you want to, or you can use an EEPROM in there if you want to. And that's what's the 27, or you can go with the 25 or a 28. Alright, just double check the pinouts for what you're sticking here. You could probably go for a smaller one, but as I said, just check what pinouts are what on it. But these are relatively inexpensive to buy. Alright, and as in being 16k with 4 images, I think there is about 3 main test utilities you can run on these Spectrums, and only need 3. I probably only need 1 or 2. There are a couple that do slightly different things, so I probably only need 1 or 2 on this, just so I can test different areas of it, see what's right and what's wrong. Okay guys, so I will clean this mess up, dig out the ICs, and I will solder this board together. Alrighty, so we'll catch you either soon or a little bit later. Okay guys, so let's turn that light away. Got the board done. It's all soldered up. You can see it's all on there. I've left the LED tall because I'm not 100% sure which way around it's meant to go. So if I need to, I can just desolder it, flip it around, put it right down to the board and solder it in. But that's our reset. I made that nice and long, so when the process is there, the ROM is in there, I can push that easy enough. So that's all done and ready to go. I don't have the edge connector, as I said, but I've been online and ordered some, and it's like you can get 5 for about $4 and $3 postage. It's going to cost me like $9 to get 5 of them. So I've got 5 coming in. I don't need all 5, but they go into spares because, as I said, I've only got 50s. I don't have any of the 56s. Alright, so that's all done. That's us. So I've just got to dig out the IC for that and look for the one for this and then program it. And that's pretty easy. We just use our standard programmer, which is mine's this trusty old is it 66? I have to put my eyes on to read it. TI 8662 is my one. This is the one I've adapted with the jumper if I wanted to do old EPROMs, which need a higher voltage, which these were not giving them, and this is the mod to actually change it internally, so it will do that. But yeah, that's all we need to program this, and then, as I said, the edge connector, and then we can plug it in and fire it up and see what's what and play around with these jumper settings. But I will dig out all that information and put all that up here when we get close to that point. Alright, I'll be waiting for these edge connectors to come in, and then we can go on from there. It's going to be a couple of weeks by the time that stuff gets here, so you may not get to see this until after Christmas, but we'll see how we go. Alrighty, we'll see you then. Hey guys, so I was looking a bit more into the ROMs for these, and I did have some 27C256s which are only 32k, not 64k. Now they only had a 64k in here because they wanted to put 3 different ROMs on it, and it's the easiest way to do it. I've got these simple LS32 in here, and I had a look, and I've got a pile of these brand new ones, and I've looked up online to make sure they're pin compatible. The only difference between these and the 64s is pin 1, and pin 1 on the 64k ones is address line 15, and on these it's the programming pin. So we can drive that high or low, it doesn't really matter because we're not going to use it. So that's why I thought this will be fine. So I've gone through and I've made up a ROM for this. Now I will take you through that just so you can see what I've done and how it is done, and I combined 2 images to make one to put it on the 32k ROM, because they have to be in 16k or in 16k blocks at least. They can't be smaller, they have to be 16k. Alright, so I will switch you over to the desktop and we will go through combining the 2 images, making one image and programming the chip. Alright, we'll just switch over now. Okay guys, so what we do is we get onto our desktop, and on our desktop we want to go to the easiest way is search option, or if you know where you're going in through the start bar, you want to go to a command prompt. So once we've gone into our command prompt, then you want to change to the directory where you're going to combine these 2 files. Now I made a folder in my downloads, so I just change into my downloads folder, And in my downloads folder I've got the 2 ROM files. Just do a listing, and the 2 ROM files are here, and one is the release 0.37 test ROM, and the other one is the Sinclair test ROM itself. And I have got that directory unzipped as well. So what I did is I then copied both of these files into another directory. So I called this directory 2 to just TO 1 ROM Specky with only one seat because I didn't put both of them. So now if I do a dir, you'll actually see there's 3 files in here. Now there is a test rom.bin, there is the str128.rom, and there's a combined.rom. Now this is where I've combined the 2 together, but I'll go through the same process for you so you can actually see it. So what we do is there is a command we type in, copy B. I'll see if I make this a bit bigger for you. There we go. And we go, it's copy /B for binary, and then it's generally your first image file bin plus your second image file bin, and then the final one is the name you want to call the combined file. So what we'll do is we'll go through, and because one is a bin and one is a ROM, but they are both binary files. So what I will do is then I'll go into here and I'll change that, and it is case sensitive too, guys, so remember that. And we put out a second one in, and remember these are case sensitive too, don't forget. I'm pretty sure they are. I can't be 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they are case sensitive ROM. And then we'll put in what it's going to, and what I'll do is I'll call it I'll call it large image.bin. Okay, and then so once we finish that, we just go to the end of the file and press enter, and it will go through and it will take both of those ROMs and convert them into one. So now if we do a directory, and then we have, as you can see here, our large image.bin. Now that's the only file we need for our programmer to be able to program this. So what we can do now is we can exit out of here, so long as we remember the directory the file is in. So I can exit out of there, and then I can load up the programmer, and this is my programmer for my 8662 TL. And so in here I've got the 27256 8-pin dips. So the problem I have is it's not the exact naming for the chip, even though they're exactly the same. So a lot of the times you have to turn off the check ID option because it'll come back that it's incorrect. So usually I'll turn that, I'll try it with it on first, and then if it does it, I turn it off. And so then what you do is then you can do a read of your chip to make sure that your chip is blank, which this one is. And then from there, then we want to load our file. So we go File, Load, and it'll ask us where it is. So we'll go, we'll go Browse, and it's in our Downloads folder, and it's inside here, and it is our large image.bin file. And so we go, okay, open that, yep, and then it loads it in. And these are both of our ROMs. Now it depends on which way around we put the ROMs together, to which one is the first one and which one is the second one. But if we scroll down to about halfway through the ROM, you can see there's that blank space. Well, that's to the end of the first ROM, and then we go into the second ROM. And that's where the two of them are. So this is why we have the jumpers, because the jumpers are to tell it which part of the ROM it is going to start in. So whether it's going to start at address 0 or whether it's going to start at the second 16 kilobyte. Now it's the same when you put a 512, but instead of 2 ROM images you'll be putting 3 or 4 ROM images into one file. So you're combining all of them. So rather than just doing ROM 1 plus ROM 2 equals the one you want to call it, you do ROM 1 plus ROM 2 plus ROM 3 plus ROM 4 if you've got a fourth one. And then that will combine it. Now, unless you've got a bigger ROM and you make a new board with a bigger ROM, you can't do more than 4 on this board. But you can design your own and make a bigger one. Alright, so then we go through and we program that. Once it's programmed, then it will come up that it's fine. And you can do a reread of the ROM, and then that will come up on here and show you exactly the same thing. Alright, so that's how you combine and program your ROMs. And that's what I've done already, so I've just taken you through the steps that I've done. Okay, so that's how that part is done. So we'll just go back out of here now. Okay guys, so I'm up to that part now, so I've just got to wait for those connectors to come in. As I said, I don't have anything bigger, and they reckon they'll be in a couple of weeks. I'll have a hunt and see if I do have anything. Not too hopeful, and I don't fancy going and spending the same amount of money on one connector locally. So I will have a hunt and see what I can find. I may find a couple of old ones where I could chop a piece out of them, and we'll see how we go from there. Alrighty, so I'll be back to you when I can get this up and running and we can test it out on the Spectrum. Hopefully not too far away. Alright, I will be back soon. Hey guys, so I've had some stuff turn up. So I'll switch you over and we can have a look. Right, so that's the project we were doing before, and hopefully this camera is in focus. And this is a pile of stuff that's come in, and it's not just for this. There are some other projects I'm going to be doing as well that'll be coming up on here, and these are some of the parts for it, but there are a few pieces waiting to come in. So those are the proper ROMs for this, so we can actually put 4 images on here. And those are some tuned pin header connectors I needed for another project. Some cable. This is silicon cable, so it's a soft cable. I've also got some micro switches. These are the ones that go up here on this. And I got 2 different types. This was a pack, but these are all just the flat ones that you got to slide backwards and forwards. And I grabbed some of these, and these are ones that are like a little lever that go up and down on the side. And I thought they'd be better for this if you soldered them on, and then you could flick it up and down, which would be easier than trying to slide that switch across. So I got some of those as well. Some power connectors with fuses and switches, and these are the edge connectors for the boards. So those are going to go on there. So there's a little mod I've got to do with that, where it's just pull out one of the fingers and put in, these don't have the locators cut in them, but I'll pull it out anyway, and what you can do is you can actually put a bit of plastic down in there to make it a locator for on the back of the board, so you can only put it in one way around. Alright, so those are the bits I've got here. So what I will do is I will move this lot out of the way, and we will get on to putting the connector onto that and test it on that. Alright, give me a minute. Okay, so we've got the socket, and what we've got to do is, because these are so thin and those are so wide, you need to bend the pins down so then they will clamp on either side of this board. So that's what I'm going to do here. And the easiest way is that with a hard board on here, you put them on and you'll see the pins stick out past the plastic. So you sit it on there and just gently rock it till you feel it hit the pins, and there's a little bit of pressure. Gently rock it and they will bend in. And what I do is I do both sides, and then I'll take it and see. and we've still got a wee ways to go, and that's what I generally do. I just gently do that. You could get the more expensive versions of these, which are the wire wrap ones, and they're longer, and you could bend those with a pair of pliers. Now I could probably still do that with this and keep one side as it is and bend the other side down. So I mean, that's another way of doing it. Or I could solder the top side on and then bend the other ones to meet it, and that's another way of doing it. But if you meet them into the middle, it gets it far enough off, and then all we got to do is put something in the middle here to help hold it up. Maybe even make up a case for it to go into, and then that can just plug in the back with a hole with a reset, the LED and the switch, and you can set your switches and push your reset, etc. But anyway, I'm going to go through and continue bending these. It doesn't matter if you push them a little bit too far, because you can get something down in between them and pry them out. Yeah, that feels really, those fingers, it's really sitting on there. I'm not soldered it on or anything, so that's sitting on there really good. So all those fingers are actually touching. So what I can do now is I can dab a piece of solder at either end, and if we wanted to, we could also bring this forward a fraction, I suppose, so we have a bit more of the fingers sticking out the back, so that we can solder to them from the pins. But I don't think we're going to have an issue. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. So if I sit that on something, then we should be able to just solder across it. And I've just got to take those pins out of the middle, as I said, which is pins 5 on both sides. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is that one. 5, which is that one. And all you do is you just hold them and you gently push them down, and they'll start to come up through the inside here. Now if I can just grab it, I probably need a little bit more, and they just slide out. And that's both the pin 5s that are out of that now, so that has that gap through it. So what you can do, if it's keyed in the back here, like most of these are, they're keyed, you can get a very small piece of plastic, slide it in there, just cut it a fraction bigger, slide it in there, glue it if you want, but slide it in there, and then that keys it, so it's only one way to go in. You can't get that wrong. But I might put that on, I might do that a little bit later. I just want to, I really want to just solder this up and get this ready. We set that on a couple of boards under it to lift it up, and to try and get it sitting so it's sort of square. Now if you have an issue, if I'd had these sockets before, I would have put them on first. I'm just making sure that all the pins are in the middle. Yep. So make sure all those pins are in the centre, and then what I'm going to do is just a little bit of solder on the two end ones, flip it over, and do it on the other side as well. So just wait for my iron to heat up. And the nice thing is these finger connectors on these boards are tinned, so it's really easy to solder them. And then once that's got a couple of bits of solder on, just on either end, that is actually quite rigid now. That's nice and solid now. Right, so I will go through and solder the rest of these on. Okay, I think they all look fine. It's just one I sort of a bit questionable at, but what we can do is we can just go through and pin them out all along the edges there, just to make sure they're all connected. So those are all fine, and I'm pretty sure we're going to find that those are all the same on the back. So I don't think there's any need to go through and test the whole lot. I will say it's good and call it there. What I will do is I think I will desolder these pins and put the switch in, and put one of those ones I was talking about, one of those little rocker switches in. So I think I will do that. The holes look all okay, they all look clear. So we'll get one of our switches, and these are the ones I was talking about, and I'll just show you the difference so you can see what I'm talking about. And these aren't dear, these kits. To buy the rocker ones, they don't do them in a kit like this. They only do them individually in sizes, so I just got the ones I want. The thing is, you can daisy chain together and make them as big as you like. So that's the two different styles that you have. I'll zoom in on that. Right, so hopefully you can see the difference. So I mean, that is your standard 2-pin, and they're the ones that you use a small device to switch them either left or right. But this is the one I prefer. It's what they call the rocker type or lever type. Same type of switch, but with these you can push them down or pop them up easier than you can slide them across. I like these ones better, so that's what I'm thinking on putting in here. And these are the right footprint for those to go in. So, but what I'm going to do is I will stick it around that way, so it's easier to get to those from this side. So I'll just show you, and this is what the other one would look like if it was in here. So, and that's how the other one would look like that. And you'd have to use something fine down there to switch them up and down. And that's why I like these. It's easier to pop these up and down with either a finger or just the tip or something. Those you do it with the tip, but they are actually a lot harder having to slide. So that's why I'm going with that. Alright, so I will solder that in, and then what I'll do is I'll clean up the board, and then we'll chuck it into the Spectrum and see how it works. And so I don't have a case for this yet either, so it'll be something I'm going to have to design up, but that's going to be in the new year. It's just time's getting away on me at this stage, so that is going to have to wait until I have a little bit more time so I can make something up. But this all works well and does as it should. I will have some of these boards for sale if anybody wants to make one, and doesn't want to have to go through the hassles of buying their own, then and only wants to get one or two, I will have some. Alright, so I'm just going to tidy this lot up, get rid of what I don't need, and then we will try the Spectrum out and see if the diagnostic ROM gives us everything we should have. Alrighty, I'm back shortly. Okay guys, so I came a little bit unstuck with this. The header, the connectors I got to go on it, fit here fine. But Sinclair, in their infinite wisdom to cut prices where they could, did not put the side notches for the cartridge connector to slide in. It's open-ended. So, I have just spent the last 15 minutes cutting the ends off of these with a file. As you can see down here, what is left over, some of it is on the floor, so that will all have to get vacuumed up later. I thought I could use a pocket knife, but it's too hard for that. It's quite a hard plastic, like an ABS probably, or an ASA. But anyway, now that should fit fine. I haven't got my locator in there, so that's the next thing I'll have to do. But I need to clean this up. The things we do for diagnostics cartridges. Alright, so I'm going to get into and clean all this up, and I'll get me a bit of plastic to put into this, and we'll be back and set to try this out. Alright, I just got to get me some clean wipes to wipe this bench down with and get all this plastic residue off it. Alright, I'll be back soon. Right, so just making up the tongue to go into this, and I've put some double-sided tape on the back. This is the foam based stuff, which is thicker, and I just stuck two pieces, one on top of the other, so it gives it a bit of height, and it makes it the same height as that now. And doing the tongue, I was trying to think what I could use, and I just used a piece of an old ice cream container. Cut a corner out of that, and then just mark the width of it when I put it up against it, how wide it needs to be. Cut a piece out, and at one end I just cut the corners slightly tapered, and then that can go into our slot. And I made it a little bit bigger than the hole because I want to force it in, so it's going to go in there and not want to come out. And then if I have any issues with it, then I can just dab a glue and put a bit of glue in there for it. Alright, so that's all the way in now. So what I can do is I can cut that off. And I'm probably going to need to trim that off, so I'm going to need my side cutters to get that flush. Now I don't know if you can buy these or not. I would say you probably could, but for the cost of a little bit of a plastic off an old ice cream container, that I have more lids than I do containers. Don't ask me why, but I do. So what we'll do now is we'll see how we go with this fitting. Okay, that lines up with that, just like that. That's really, really good. Alright, so the last thing to do, I think I've got it selected to 1. I will probably leave them both off because it may be both off as 1 or 0. 1 down is number 2. This one up, this one down is number 3, and probably both down is number 4. And I've only got 2 images on this ROM, so I think both of them up will give us ROM 0. Alright guys, so I'm going to power on the monitor. And I will spin you around so you can see it. And we're going to turn on the Spectrum. Okay, and I'm not too sure what that's meant to be. Now it could be my cartridge or my ROM images. So I'll unplug that and plug this on. Okay, so we're going into Sinclair Research. So that seems to be booting up fine. Okay, so the only thing I can think of is the line on the ROM that I've done may need to be tied to ground or something, so I may need to look at doing something with that. The problem with this one here is that this is a UV erasable, which takes a wee while for it to erase the ROM before I can reprogram it, and I've only got so many of these ROMs kicking around. I'm going to look at picking up some EEPROMs, which are the same pinouts that are going to be easier to program than these, so we don't have to have that issue. Alright, so I will leave it here and we'll come back to this when I can sort out what's going on with this ROM. Alright guys, so I will see you soon. So guys, I found out what the problem was with the cartridge. Sorry, it's another day. On the back here, I did have some connections that weren't very good. And as you will see in the next video on this Spectrum, the diagnostics ROMs work fine. I did try it. I got the EEPROMs and I burnt the same image 4 times on the ROM, so it filled up the whole ROM with 4 images, and that gave me the one test ROM 4 times. So it didn't matter how I had the switches, it worked, and it did. So I put the original 4 ROM version on, and I could select them by selecting the switches. So that all works fine. There is a problem with the Spectrum still. It seemed to be working all okay, and then when I did a last test on it and I powered it on, I had double images on the screen. So ran the test ROM through and that was all fine. But as you will see, if you watch part 2, it was not all fine. Okay, thank you for sticking with me. This one has been a bit of a change in clothing on the way through. It was because it was over Christmas and that, and being a new year, so I was doing bits as I could and waiting for stuff to come in to do bits and pieces as well. So anyway, and hopefully that bloody camera stops fading in and out, and we can get back to normal unblurry video. But I'm looking at grabbing a couple other cameras just in case that one does decide to turn its toes up. Okay guys, so hopefully you did have a great Christmas and New Year, and it's good to be back, and my new channel is starting up very shortly, so keep an eye out for it. As I always say, have a great day, have a great week, and until next time, ciao.